Hello and welcome to week 6, Prepare for Interview. My name's Lorraine Thornton. We'll just firstly do a recap from last week and look at progress on actions. The actions really were in relationship to network and connecting meeting. How did that go? What progress do you have there on that? The social media review and tracking applications and follow-up. These are all very, very important in your progress. I hope you've got on well with them. What we're going to be focusing in on today is on interview techniques and preparing for interview. And I'm starting off with an approach that is used predominantly in larger organisations, but is becoming much more popular in smaller organisations as well. But it's something that I would like you to get used to and familiar with, because it's very, very helpful when you're answering questions in an interview environment. And the approach is called the STAR approach. So it's an anagram which stands for situation, which are the conditions, where and when was it? You're setting the scene here in relationship to answering the question. You're explaining what the example is, where it was from, for example, okay? So the task then, what were you required to actually do? The activity, what you were actually doing, and what did you do to handle the situation? The result, how did it end? What was the end result? So if you can see here, it's as if you're packaging your response to a potential employer in an interview. You're basically saying, this was the situation, this is what we were required to do, this is how I dealt with it and handled it, and this was the response, the end result, which will always be positive, of course. So it's a very, very nice way of practicing answering examples. And I'm going to give you a generic example here, which can be used really to help you understand this approach in more detail. So the actual scene, setting the scene then, the situation. The situation was a small Irish engineering company making security systems. And they were looking to bring in a new product, and they had done a very small amount of research, but they had brought a new product. It was ready to be launched when they noticed that that product was already on the market. So it was a very big blow. So really then, what was happening then, so you got your situation then is the company and what they were involved in, and then you've got the task really. What we're coming to now is that the product was really obsolete, so they needed to diversify and to actually get involved in another product. So how you got involved in that then. So really an example here of the actual activity would have been a lot more research that you got involved in. For example, you could have gone to trade fairs. You could have looked elsewhere internationally, for example. And you could give an example then of that. So in this generic example, we're going to say that you looked and you actually found a company in the United States that there was a very interesting product that there was no one else in Ireland or in fact the UK that had this product at market. So you can explain then how then you actually got that product to be launched, the licensing behind it, the exclusive rights that you got behind that product, and how the benefits was, the result then at the end, the benefits for all. The company in the United States hadn't ventured to produce this product in Ireland or the UK, so it's a win-win for them and for obviously the company that you were involved in, because it's a new product, you've got exclusive rights. So that's a very, very positive example that can be given. Now obviously we want to make these examples specific to us and related very much to our experiences, but I hope you can see how you can use this approach. So basically you'll set the scene, you'll explain what the actual task was, what the job at hand was, how you handled it, which is very, very important, because we're looking here at our competencies, our abilities, because we're basically saying this is how we've handled it in the past and this is how I'll be able to handle it again in the future. and of course a very, very positive situation, a result at the end, which will be very beneficial, which will show that you have great ability. So that's the STAR approach. So now we're going to get more into actually preparing for interview and looking at key 5 areas in our preparation. So your introduction, the competency-based questions and examples, typical questions that may be asked, your questions about the role, and your conclusion. We're looking very much as the interview as being a 2-way process. So, your introduction answers the question, why are you here? What are you looking for? What makes you best for this role? Tell us about yourself. Now, a good interviewer will give you open questions that invites you to provide a platform to be able to answer these questions. We want to make sure that we, to the best of our abilities, that we actually sell ourselves and that we shine in this situation. So really want to get across what makes us the best person for this role. And here you can use your 90-second introduction, and I would really advise people to get used to even recording yourself talking or even videoing yourself that you can see yourself talking as well. It's a very, very good way of talking really and getting comfortable talking about yourself. So competency questions. We're familiar now with competencies. What are the skills required for the job? Project management, possibly research, communication skills. Whatever the skills are, we want to be able to identify with them and be able to make sure that we can respond to these. Could be leadership. And so here we're going to use examples, and that's why the STAR approach can be very, very helpful as well, because really this, as I've said before, is packaging your response by providing the actual example of the situation, what was at hand, how you handled it, and what the result was. So task, action, result, story. Very, very similar to the STAR approach. So typical questions. Once we know the typical questions, then we can start to package our responses and prepare ourselves fully. Typical questions will be strengths, and in some situations, weaknesses. That's why if we've looked at ourselves personally, in-depthly, then we'll be able to have no problem answering these questions. Challenges. Employers would like to know what challenges you've had in the past. They really want to know is how you handled those challenges. Your biggest achievements. We've already spoken about these and we've noted these already. What are our biggest achievements? We want to sell these now. This is our opportunity to shine. I know a lot of the time we're very nervous at this point in time, but really this is where we need to excel. Your understanding of the role. It's very important that we portray that and we get that message across, that we know what this role entails and that we can start this job now. Leadership, management style, for example, in yourself or in others. What sort of styles have you displayed in the past, or what sort of styles have been displayed to you in the past, and how do you work with this? How do you stay up to date? How are you current in your particular field? We want to get that across, that we are proactive. Your questions now. Intelligent questions about the role or culture or development of the organisation. We want to practice these questions before we go into the interview. We should know them in advance. So make sure you have an idea of how to answer your own question. So that's why preparation is so, so important. Rather than just off the top of your head, putting yourself under enormous pressure by asking a question that you haven't rehearsed. In this sense, if you have rehearsed it and practiced it, then it really does aid in your ability really at the interview. And we will give examples as well. We want to provide examples which aids in our preparation. So your conclusion. In some situations, this is how we might feel, that we want to run off, we want to leave, we want to get out as soon as possible, but don't do this. This is part of our interview still, the conclusion. At the end of the interview, we want to thank the interviewers, thank them for their time. Restate why you're interested and why you're suited to the position. We want to leave on a very positive note. We've started on a very positive note. We've gone through the whole process in a positive note. Now we want to be consistent and keep that positivity. Use the opportunity to have the last word. So interview tips. What you did, not we. Sometimes when we're in an interview, we might relate back to a situation that we were involved in as a team, or we might say we as in relation to the company that we worked for. But really it's important that you talk about you on your own personally. This is what you did. Enthusiasm is so important. There are some people that might be absolutely perfect for the job, but they don't come across as if they actually want the job. They don't show any enthusiasm for the job. It's very, very important that we show enthusiasm for the job. That we're businesslike in our attire. In certain organisations, and it's very only small number, that business attire is actually not necessary, but in the large majority of organisations this is not the case, and businesslike attire is necessary. So we want to do our homework and make sure that we are dressed to impress in the appropriate company that we are going to interview for. When we meet our interviewers, we would like to shake their hand. The opportunity doesn't always come up, but we'd like to make the opportunity for ourselves as best as we can and give a firm handshake. Make eye contact. It's very, very important to have eye contact as well, and actually really look at the people that are interviewing you as well. Sometimes what can be very, very nice is have a follow-up letter or an email after your interview, although in a lot of situations the interviewer will let you know the process and normally it's them that are contacting you. There are different interview formats. In some situations you might be a group interview where there's more than one people and they're getting an idea of how you actually work within a team environment. It could be a telephone interview. Somebody could be calling you over the phone and conducting an interview that way. You might have to give a presentation at your interview as well, and that forms part of the criteria for how they are assessing you. Or Skype, for example. So staying calm under pressure is easy said than done, but we want to try to practice this. Practice is the key word here, because the more you practice at answering certain questions, the more the interview will be a relaxed or more relaxed situation for you. So this is just a conversation or a meeting. They want you to be the right person for the job. Don't forget, they have gone through your CV. You are at this stage in the selection process because they've seen something in your CV, your cover letter, in you, that they feel that actually possibly you could do the job. We need to find out more information. Practice your answers out loud in front of a mirror, or as I said before, maybe recording yourself. Recording yourself using your phone or your video is very, very helpful. It just familiarises yourself with your voice, how you look, how you handle situations, and really it gets you very, very used to the situation of talking about yourself. Sometimes avoid caffeine. We don't want to have too much caffeine going into an interview, although sometimes it is good to be lively, but maybe not always having caffeine. Get some fresh air, maybe go for a walk beforehand. Breathing is very, very important. And breathing while counting, breathing slowly for a count to 3, for example, hold your breath for 3 and breathe out again. 3 3s and 3s, and then increase to counts maybe of 4 or 5. This really does help to relax the body. So, any other tips to stay calm? These might be areas that you might have some tips yourself on how to stay calm, because you know yourself the best. So, your action plan then previously, from key learning points for me were, and what you were hoping to do for next week, and things I need to do, stop doing, start doing, or keep doing. So for future reference, what we need to be looking at here is practice interview opening and closing of the interviews. Prepare for typical questions. We can do this. There will be general questions that will be asked of us, and we've gone through these now, so you should have a good idea roughly of the areas. For example, challenges, how you've handled certain situations, your strengths and your weaknesses, for example. These will be areas they want to be able to see, can you do the job? And they're basing that on how you've responded in the past. Use your phone or camera to video or record yourself practicing and play it back to yourself. Or even, what can happen is that you can get somebody that you know to actually give you a mock interview as well. Practice breathing techniques to deal with nerves. And research your interviewers on LinkedIn, for example. You know, it's important for us to find out as much information as possible because it adds to our advantage. So, the review then. Top strategies for success. Carry out self-assessment. Know what you're good at. Only you know this. Get involved in a job club, for example, or a similar group. And in this group, really, you will receive support. You're not alone all the time then in your job search. Encouragement and networking with like-minded people can be very, very helpful. Call or visit people in person. People hire people. It's very important to know that we have a job. Our job is to get a job. We don't ever want to forget this. We have to get out sometimes, which is very difficult when we really don't feel like it or that we don't feel able to do it. But really, we need to get out and network and start visiting people. And don't wait for advertised openings. In Ireland, a lot of the jobs really can actually be obtained through networking. They're not always advertised in recruitment agencies, for example, or online or in the newspapers. Some jobs really can actually happen in organisations through networking, which happens an awful lot in Ireland. So in some situations, we might even go out and actually go around to a small business park, for example, and actually get talking to the owner-manager there, that you'll actually really get speaking to people. Use your existing contacts. Don't forget about previous employers, people that you know as well, and keep record of your contacts as well, and interviews, for example, and possibly revisit or follow up on these because things do change as well. Keep the ball in your own court, and what I mean by that really is in relationship to ownership. This is your job search. It's very important that you control it. It's not somebody else that's controlling it for you. You are in control of your job search. Sometimes volunteering can be very, very effective, and volunteering your services keeps you very current as well, and it helps to develop maybe other skills as well, but also really is very prominent in relationship to networking. It also shows the employer that you are active all the time, you know, that you are not sitting back, that you are getting involved. So any others? I'm sure there are other strategies that you'll be able to think of yourself that will assist you in your job search. So review your personal action plan. What is my goal? What is it that I want to achieve? When will I have achieved it? Put a time frame on it. What can stop me and what can I do about it? What can help me and how can I make the most of this help? What will I do this month, this week, today, tomorrow? We're making a plan. Feedback. There will be a follow-up survey form which will be posted in Moodle to you. And also connect with WorkLink Ireland on Facebook, Twitter or LinkedIn, www.worklink.ie. We're here to help, so let's get working. We wish you all the very, very best of luck. Thank you very much.